How's it going, guys? I'm Aaron from PhoneDog.com, and AT&T wasn't going to let Verizon get too far ahead in the 4G LTE game. They're rolling out their own version of 4G LTE, and it's available in 9 markets as of today. Well, they have to have some devices to go with those markets, so now they've introduced 2 4G LTE devices, one of which is the Samsung Galaxy S2 Skyrocket. Now, this device is very similar to the Galaxy S2 on T-Mobile. It's got a dual-core 1.5 gigahertz processor, a 4.5-inch Super AMOLED Plus display, an 8-megapixel camera, and heck, it even looks the same, or looks pretty similar to the one on T-Mobile. That said, it has 4G LTE capabilities built in, so if you're in one of those 9 markets, you can take advantage of it right now. Now, that said, it goes up against the HTC Vivid on AT&T, another 4G LTE phone, which is $50 cheaper. Is it worth the extra $50? And heck, is it even worth doing the extra money for AT&T's 4G LTE? We'll find out that and more in the full review of the Skyrocket. But first, to give special thanks to my boys at Best Buy. They hook us up with phones just like this for use in our one-paw bandit game. So when you go into Best Buy Mobile, you won't deal with rebates. You'll walk out the door paying $249.99. Don't deal with paperwork. Don't deal with waiting 8 to 10 weeks or 6 to 8 weeks, whatever it is now. And you don't have to worry about debit cards or dealing with any mess like that. You'll walk out the door at Best Buy Mobile without dealing with rebates. Enough of that, let's get into it. Skyrocket. Moving into part 2, let's take a look at the camera on this device first. So 8-megapixel camera over here with 1080p HD video recording, and I'm going to put up the video in just a second, but you can see here, let's bring over my cup of coffee from this nondescript coffee company that no one, of course, knows. I'm going to focus in on this picture here of this little woman with the star on her head, and we're going to focus in and take a picture. And you can see here again, Super AMOLED Plus display is certainly making this look better, but by the same token, that's quite the good picture. And you can zoom in and see the little fibers from the cardboard, and then you can see the green paint pretty well. So it's a great camera. In well-lit situations, it's going to be perfect. Even in not so well-lit situations, I've been pretty pleased with the image quality. I'll show you actually. Let's go back here and take a look. Let's see if I can see. There it is. HTC again, very low lit situation, and of course the head's in front of me. You can't really tell, what's going on, but the light around the stage rather is I don't really know what that means, but the light around the stage is looks pretty decent. And of course you can see the Beats logo and HTC. I feel like that's kind of blasphemous showing an HTC picture on a Samsung review. But anyway, here's the video, and I'm going to load it up right now so you can see what it looks like.
What's going on, guys? I'm Aaron from PhoneDog.com, and I'm testing a 1080p HD video recording on the Samsung Galaxy S2 Skyrocket. You can see a park here.
So you can see good picture quality. Been pretty impressed with it. And that's 1080p. Let's take a look at speed tests as well, both speed test and quadrant standard to get an idea. Now, quadrant standard on most of the Galaxy S2 devices has ranged somewhere between 3200 and 3700. I haven't seen those speeds on this one, but I can talk about call quality while we're doing this. I've been really impressed with it. Call quality's been decent. Signal strength has been good. The wireless radio is pretty decent. But one thing I've been pleasantly surprised with is the battery on this. 2 things. I'm not sure if Samsung made an enhancement to this or what, but I've always criticized Samsung devices for taking too long to charge. For that person that lives on the 10 or 15 minute charge like I do, it's pretty frustrating. Well, they've kind of gotten rid of that. It seems like it's a faster charge this time around, and or I may be imagining things, but it does seem like a faster charge this time around. It goes from 0 to 100 faster, and also the battery life is pretty decent. It's a 1,850 milliamp hour battery, one of the biggest in an Android device. Actually, the largest I've seen is the 1,930 milliamp hour battery in the Atrix, the original Atrix. So definitely a big battery for a standard battery on an Android device. And I've been really impressed with it. With moderate use, calling, texting, downloading apps, I've made it well into the night before the low battery warning flashed on the screen. So quadrant standard 2,280. So certainly not up there with the 32 to 37. Again, it's important to note though, quadrant standard, very hypothetical. Take it with a grain of salt. It's not indicative of day-to-day performance. But for those that live their lives on quadrant standard, you can see the number is definitely lower than the ones that we've seen on the other Samsung Galaxy S2 devices. Now, this is an LTE device, but I haven't been able to test it in any LTE market. Charlotte is still an HSPA Plus market. Hopefully, I'm hoping we'll get it before the end of the year. That will be one of the 15 cities, which I have a feeling we are going to be. But, or we are rather, but hopefully we'll get that by the end of the year. So you can see speeds are still pretty decent. I'm getting 4.79 megabits per second, 3.71, 2.35. So in comparison to some of the EVDO Revision A, CDMA stuff on the market, it's a pretty decent technology. Now, that said, it pales in comparison, obviously, to AT&T's own LTE and then Verizon's 4G LTE. but still does pretty well. So in the middle of Uptown, we'll do a speed test here and get an idea of what we get in Uptown Charlotte. So you're seeing pretty decent speeds again, going up to 5, may hit 6. Wow. So 6.2, 6 megabits per second, HSPA plus. Pretty impressive. And again, I'm standing in or sitting in Center City right now. Download 6.19 megabits per second. Upload's going to be right around 1 megabit per second, it looks like, but pretty decent speeds there. And like I said a minute ago, call quality's been excellent. Earpiece has been nice and loud. Took it to an AT&T fringe area, and I didn't have as much of a problem with it cutting out as I thought I would, but was choppy from time to time. So 6.19, 1.06, that's actually the fastest I've seen since I started conducting these tests. So you can see that's a pretty impressive number, even though the ping is a little bit higher this time around. So 6.19 megabits per second there. Pretty impressive on the speed front. Now, one thing I did want to show you before we go into and sign off, and of course, is the Gmail application. I always like to show this because there are some changes to Gmail's application, particularly if you're coming back to Android for the first time. But you can see here's a standard Gmail application. I always like to cover this. So we're going to see Carolina nightlife, for example, because the Quick Brown Fox is coming into town. And I'm going to take him out for a couple beers and really show him what we do here in Charlotte. So Prohibition's new promotion and other Charlotte news. You can see when I go down like that, the header stays at the top, so I can easily click reply, I can easily hit forward, and always do it from wherever I'm at in the email. So if I want to go, I'm ready to respond right now, well, all I have to do is hit reply, and I can go ahead and send that email back to Carolina Nightlife. So pretty quick and pretty easy, and again, transition effects are nice and fast on this device. So let's go through, there was one other thing I wanted to show you, and let me see if I can find it. Let's see, oh, Media Hub, that's what it was. Samsung's Media Hub. Take a look at this. This is Samsung's application where you can rent movies, buy movies, and TV shows as well. So we're going to go ahead and accept the terms, and we're going to load it up right now. So you can see the movies are loading up, and you can do one of two things. Like I said, you can either rent it or buy it. So this is really useful when you're going on a long flight or you want to download a movie and rent it. So we can see Crazy Stupid Love, for example. I can own it for 18. The prices are a little steep, but you can own it for 18 bucks. You can rent it for $4. Or you can watch a preview if you want to, but it gives me the summary, the actors in it, the directors, and some running time information, genre, things like that. But I can easily do it through Samsung. So this is nice because I've always said Android needs an ecosystem like iTunes, and I hate to make an iOS comparison, but one thing they've really excelled in is the ecosystem. I mean, from 5 minutes of pulling the device out, my mother could be downloading music, could be downloading books, could be downloading stuff in the newspaper, or download the virtual newspapers, could be downloading movies and more as part of that iTunes ecosystem. And Android, I feel like it's a little bit fragmented. It hasn't quite caught up. There are a bunch of applications hovering around out there. They're doing a better job, though, with combining everything in the Android market, and then, of course, with the help of some of the manufacturers like Samsung with the Media Hub. Same thing over here with Social Hub. We'll go over here and take a look at it as well. And this is where you can kind of aggregate all of your social stuff in one place. You can aggregate Facebook, you can aggregate Twitter, and you can sync all your contact. Well, I guess you could just read the screen if you wanted to. Enjoy chatting with your friends in real time, sync contacts with online portals, and social network information, social networking, and more. So I have my messages here, and then I can add my feed. So of course I could add a Twitter account, I could add a Facebook account, a LinkedIn account, maybe an IM account if I wanted to. Not really sure if anybody even uses Yahoo Messenger anymore, but if you do, it's right there for you. So that's it's nice to have that out of the box. And again, they've really done a good job, not just with TouchWiz 4, but having these Media Hub integrations and having these Social Hub integrations. They're really impressive on that front. So all in all, Skyrocket's a good device. The battery life is very good. I was impressed with the battery life. Android battery life's never that great. And of course, if you just run this device into the ground with a bunch of calls, a bunch of text messages, you're going to run out before the day's over. But with a 1,550 milliamp hour battery, it's been pretty impressive. It's one of the most impressive Android devices I've worked with. Battery life's pretty important to me, and it may not be to you. Maybe you're around a charger all the time, but I've been really impressed with the battery life. The screen is beautiful. Super AMOLED Plus, just like the other Galaxy S2 devices. 4.5 is a great, it's a little bit big, and this one's a little bit chunkier than the HTC Viva due to the aspect ratio. It's a little bit harder to hold in the hand, a little wider, kind of feels more like the Droid Razr. But screen's beautiful, looks great, and when you're doing media like viewing videos, or you're on YouTube, or you're listening to music, or you're browsing the web, or you're doing something that could really involve the screen, the 4.5 inches is really beneficial to have. Is it worth the extra 50 bucks? Well, that's up to you, because you may like HTC, or you may prefer Samsung, or maybe you prefer the design of HTC. But one thing I will say is the battery life for me, if I were buying today, the added battery life and the screen, the way this one looks, would convince me to pay the extra 50. Maybe it wouldn't for you, but it certainly would for me. Much more coverage to come on PhoneDog.com with the Samsung Galaxy S2 Skyrocket. Be on the lookout for a dogfight soon between this and the HTC Vivid. I mean, if AT&T's got two 4G LTE devices, we gotta put them together in a dogfight now, don't we? So be on the lookout for that, and be sure to like us on Facebook. Facebook.com/PhoneDog. We're always doing contests, we're doing giveaways. I'm on there today trying to respond to some questions. It's been kind of a busy day, but doing my best to respond to those. So check it out, like us, Facebook.com/PhoneDog. Let me know which one you like as well. Hit me up on Twitter, PhoneDog_Aaron, and let me know, Vivid or Skyrocket. You tell me. And also hit me up on my Facebook page, Facebook.com/PhoneDogAB. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great weekend. And as always, keep it locked on PhoneDog.com for more coverage of the Samsung Galaxy S2 Skyrocket.